Fellas, I feel like it's been a minute since we've been together. Was it last Monday, I guess? We
Mhm.
had like
Yep.
10-day break where we didn't see each other. Hope you guys had a great New Year's. If I didn't ask you before, I probably
Drank a lot
have,
of
but
alcohol, so yeah.
then good. You had a great one. As long as you made good, safe decisions.
From the safety of my
Um,
home.
yeah. Today, probably going to be somewhat brief compared to what we've been doing. I think going forward, we're going to try and stay around the hour mark. We'll do our best. We get to yapping sometimes, so occasionally we will go over that. But we're going to try and keep it around the hour mark. Today's mostly going to be, we're going to recap the quarterfinal games from last week. And the big part of what we're going to do today is the preview of our two semifinal matchups for our four remaining teams. I would say let's just go ahead and dive into this bad boy if you guys are ready. No more dilly dallying.
Let's do it.
Start with let's do Penn State versus Boise State. Recap that guy. Penn State wins this one 31-14. I'll let you go. We'll open the floor up and just kind of have a little roundabout on this one.
I,
Snooze.
yeah, I think this one is just classic. Boise State's not a bad team, but it's just a higher level, and it's a higher level where it matters most, and that's the offensive and defensive line. I
Yeah,
think Boise State got bullied on both fronts.
Yeah, I mean, the first half went pretty much to me because y'all know I had Boise State like in that game as an upset. The first half went for me how I thought the whole game was going to be pretty physical. Genty did struggle a little bit, but he was able to break a few. Boise State, they also completed some good throws ahead of the sticks on the first few drives. But, like Brandon said, that second half, it's just, you know, it up front matters. And they just
And
wore
and
them
I
down.
think it comes back to exactly what we said, or at least I think I remember I said it was, they're probably going to game plan completely around Ashton Genty, and they did, and they pretty much stopped him from being effective. And they said Ashton Genty's not going to beat us. If somebody else beats us, that's fine. And they didn't have a guy that could do that.
Yeah.
Boise State. So
What's crazy though is wasn't he only wanted two guys to rush for what over 100 yards on Penn State this year?
Yeah, he went
or
30 for
well,
104.
yeah,
And
he
I
got
mean,
there.
30.
He
Yeah,
Yeah.
got there.
yeah. I mean, I honestly was kind of not like the stats don't look that great, but I was honestly kind of impressed because
Mhm.
he was throwing dudes off of him. Like
He
he
was,
was getting hit at the
yeah.
line of scrimmage every play.
I would say 70% of his carries, he was hit behind the line and
Yeah.
had to break a tackle or two to make something out of
I mean,
out of nothing. So I actually thought he did well. I don't think he was going to be in a position to succeed because I mean, like Brandon said, the game plan revolved around we're stacking that thing because you can see Matson threw 35 times. Like
Yeah,
he
they
doesn't.
dared him to beat him, and he
Yeah,
threw three
so it
picks.
was going to be on him to win the game. And I mean, Matson wasn't. I don't think he was terrible. I think he was running for his life a lot. So I think he was also put in a position where life was difficult, but he made some plays. I just don't like the trenches really was
yeah.
the difference, and it really they were just overmatched from that standpoint.
I mean, if you're Boise State though, like, and you see that after the first couple drives, that Penn State is crashing everybody. Wouldn't you
Yeah.
try to change up your game plan a little bit?
I mean, you can try and take shots, but Penn State also has a better secondary than what you
I
have
mean,
in
yeah,
receiving
yeah,
weapons. You know, the biggest weapon is Genty, and you're not going to send him on,
yeah,
40-yard routes because he's got to run the ball.
yeah. Which one thing I
So,
didn't see, and I thought they would do more of, is I didn't see much play action at all to get the secondary
He
guys
didn't
to
have
crash. I
time.
didn't see none
no,
at all.
no,
He
there
didn't
Well,
have
wasn't there
time
wasn't
for play
time.
action.
but even on the ones, say most of the time it was just Genty stepping up blocking. I mean, you got to at least try it.
I just think when it comes to the argument of, I've been on record saying it on this podcast, like, why even let a, group of five school in? And I guess there's a plethora of arguments to why they should get into the tournament, but I feel like there's just always going to be a clear gap in the physicality level of Power Four teams and Group of Five teams where guys are just bigger, faster, stronger, and that's why they get paid a lot of money now to go play at Group of Four schools or Power Four schools, excuse me. But you could just see it on every aspect of the field. I mean, Ashton Genty could have easily transferred, I think, because he's a very physical running back. He could compete at a Power Four school, but the rest of the team, where I said it matters most, which is always going to be the offensive defensive line, those guys, they can work as hard as they want, but they're just not as talented and not as physically demanding as any school that you're going to see SEC, Big 10, Big 12, ACC. So it's just the way of the road, just how college football is. So until Boise State can get millions and millions and millions of dollars together to get these guys to come to their school, every group of five teams going to have the same problem. So it's just
Yeah.
physicality.
The Penn State offensive line was just as dominant as their defensive line too. If you take
Right.
out Allard's sack yards, they ran for 7 yards a carry. Both
Right.
the other two running backs. I mean, it was that was a battle that they handily won on both ends of the ball.
And I don't
Um,
know why they didn't go to Allen more. They kind of like stopped giving the ball to him when he was averaging like 12 yards a carry.
maybe I mean, you kind of knew who was going to win the game shortly after halftime, so maybe part of it is waiting. We're saving some for next game.
Yeah, but they started to throw the ball, which was crazy for me. I'm like, just hand it off, like run it up the gut. They're not going to stop you.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. They didn't need to deviate much from the initial game plan, and the game was, I mean, it was going to be out of hand regardless. I just I don't think Boise really matched up. From a betting perspective, I had over 51.5. It was competitive, but did not happen. Boise State would have needed to score a little bit more. Brandon had the under 52.5. That hit. Will Penn State minus 11.5, banger. And Nate had Boise being competitive. They were not. A valiant effort from the G5 boys, but
Yeah,
that really was like the sleeper.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
I don't agree with this
That's
one.
a wild,
That is a
wild
wild
one.
statement to say.
Like
I mean,
you
yes,
could,
like an
This year's a bad
ACC.
example.
Yes, because the two ACC teams that got in, Clemson kind of competed a little bit, but also then you throw in SMU, who is 1 year removed from being Group of Four,
Right.
yeah.
so
We,
their roster isn't there yet.
I mean, we
But
all
like
knew SMU was going to get smoked, or at least I
last year though, it's like Florida State. If Hunter's there, it's a different team, and that's a team
Right.
that would compete in a top four scenario. So you can't say that every year. Like, I mean, no. Overall, the conference is not one of the. It's the third or fourth best conference, right? But in terms of like the upper echelon talent, like those top one or two teams any given year will compete. Now, will the bottom 15 now? No. They're going to be like run of the mill ACC schools. But
Yeah.
like top end talent is top end talent.
I mean, if I don't think we're saying a group of five should never be in, but an ACC school with their strength of schedule compared to a group of five should always get a bye over a group of five, without a
I
doubt.
think it goes back to the whole buy thing that we've talked about.
Yeah.
He's throwing shots. Power Four standards, maybe, but they're still the fourth best conference in the country.
It sounds
Easily.
personal. It almost
I
sounds
think,
personal.
in my opinion, ACC is stronger than Big 12.
Top end,
ACC's more
top
top
end, top
I
heavy.
agree.
Yes.
Top end, yes.
But like
But then
the
you
bottom
get
in
to
the
like
Big
Wake
12 is
Forest and you get to
horrible.
Wake Forest and Stanford, and no, they
Yeah,
don't
true.
they don't match up. But like the top end, I think so.
Arizona
Um,
State, I think they'd win the ACC.
Yes.
They'd be a top three team for sure. They'd
Fair.
for sure be top three. Them or
But I could also
SMU
see
would be
like
right in there.
I could see like a Georgia Tech being 1, 2, or 3 in the Big 12 too.
Yeah.
I don't
Easily.
actually don't mind that either. I mean, yeah, Georgia Tech had the fourth hardest strength of schedule going into the year of any school in the nation.
Right.
I mean, when the Big
Hey,
12,
somebody's got to be the fourth best. I think it just so happens to be them this year. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Hey, you got Bill Belichick coming in the ACC soon.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to make a UNC
Now
has never
he's
cared
going to the
about football.
Raiders.
Well,
He's
hey,
go-
I mean, if you think about it in a sense of like long term, if Bill Belichick's there for a couple of years, you got to think that other schools they got to be willing to shell out more money to compete in the ACC. Like Miami, Georgia Tech, obviously, Clemson, they're gonna have to keep competing. I mean, it's not like the net has gotten wider in the ACC for sure, which I
Yeah,
think they've been missing for a while.
I agree with that.
Well,
Like
hey,
it's just been Florida State and Clemson kind of going at it for the last couple of years.
Yeah,
well,
I hate Florida State, but the ACC is better when Florida State is good.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, better watch out. Dabo's throwing some money around the transfers now.
Yeah, they're
I mean,
actually
he,
they're kind of doing it now.
yeah, they're doing it. I think he's kind of been reading the writing on the wall. Like the way
I
that
think
He's
recruiting
got good
used to
feet
happen
now.
is just, yeah, you gotta. This is the new wave, and he's got to hop on board.
I feel like just ACC's been late to the party on kind of the transition of college football.
Half the schools like Boston College, Wake Forest, like Stanford, they're all like they're smarter schools, so they rely a lot on like freshmen and building from the ground up. So
Right.
they're going to be behind anyways. Like some of the state schools that are in there, but even like Virginia Tech, generally not massive in the transfer portal, wouldn't be. Virginia is all like it's a state school, but it's a smarter
Right.
school. So like
Yeah,
that's kind of the
they got all the
disadvantage they
smart
have
people
there.
over
I,
there.
I think a lot of
Yeah.
it was the coaching.
Georgia
too,
Tech
like,
also. They do well in recruiting, but Georgia Tech, I mean, for all intents and purposes, is also another higher achieving educational school. Anything else on this one before we move on?
Mm-mm.
Let's do it. Let's go to the game of the week, in my opinion. Texas and Arizona State.
Game of the year.
Absolute banger. An absolute banger of a football game. Go ahead, guys. Get us started on this.
I think I had Texas. This game to me, it was wild one fireworks, like we like to say.
Yeah.
2 words.
And I
Two,
think
two-
my bet was Texas minus 13, I think, covering 13. And I still think they could have done that, but Texas's typical MO came back and almost lost them this football game where they clearly looked like a much more dominant football team in the first quarter. First quarter ended and they said, "Okay, heck with all that. We're just going to be a very average mid football team for the next 3 quarters, and then we're going to go into overtime and then be another very very dominant football team." It was
it's
just
kind
like
of
I don't understand why they do that. It's almost like they get a lead, they sit on it, they take it to the house until the other team starts to come back, creep back into it, and then they're just like, okay, let's be dominant again for a second, win the game, and we'll get out of here.
it's kind of like the typical Sark game plan. Like he game plans like that first quarter or so, like better than just about anyone else, and they always get off to these really good starts, and then they just stop
'Cause,
hitting the gas
mean,
for
Yeah, they
whatever
scored in
reason.
2 plays.
with
Yeah,
how their
if you
defense,
think
Yeah,
about
like
it,
literally, it was like it couldn't have been any better.
with their
if you think
defense
about
all
it,
year, you can do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
like if you think about the Ohio State and Oregon game, right, which was pretty much a just blowout from the get go. It felt like I know the Ohio State and Oregon game came afterwards, but it felt like this Texas Arizona State game was going to be that after the first quarter. Like it
Yeah,
was just going to be like,
yeah,
okay,
for sure.
Texas is going to grab the football, they're going to score in like 7 plays max, and then they're going to go take Arizona 3 and out, punt it, and do the same thing. So I don't know why, but I think it's a lot of credit and total respect gained for Mr. Cam Scatabo because he was like a one-man band in this one. I think what
He
do you
did
have? Like,
everything.
yeah, 100 yards
Mm.
rushing, 100 yards passing, or no, receiving, and then like a passing touchdown, right?
Yeah, like a
He
45-yarder.
Yeah.
he had his stat line according to
Also, yeah.
ESPN.com. 30 carries, 143 yards, a couple tutties there. Eight receptions. He was the leading receiver too, for 99 yards, and he threw a touchdown. Threw
And
a 42-yard touchdown pass.
I will say from, my sports viewing experience, Cam Scatabo at a time in the game was a little bit of a diva on the sideline. I don't know if you guys saw that, but
I saw it.
he was yelling at coaches, throwing his helmet. Typically, when that happens, it doesn't pan out well for the player. Like, it's always like that typical saying, like the game will humble you if you start doing stuff like that, really.
Yeah,
But really, it was more for him like, hey, I'm
like
going to
I
put
need
this
to get
team on
going.
my shoulders,
Yeah, I
whatever I
need to
have
get
to do.
going.
Get
Yep.
away from me, and we're gonna go win this football game now.
Yeah.
So it
You
was pretty
saw
cool to see. I respects to them because I think they are the clear and true best team that was in the Big 12. They competed well. I didn't think they would, but I also think that has to do with Texas's lack of um, playing a full 4 quarter football game.
you saw they all respect them too. Like like you said, most teams fold when that happens. I mean, They didn't blink an eye at it,
Right.
Mm-mm.
or about an eye at it, whatever the saying is.
Which hey, now I think last episode I was clowning Scatterbo for like talking a little crazy, getting his Heisman talk, all that stuff that he was saying. Now I'm all full on board with why did Cam Scatterbo not win the Heisman Trophy? You know what I mean?
He should
Yeah,
at
I
least
think
been in New York.
I
There is
agree.
no football player this year that I've seen that I would say I wouldn't want more than that guy to be on my team
Yeah. Was
if
this a
I'm
senior
cheering for a
season?
team.
Hmm?
Is this a senior season?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
getting drafted.
Yeah, he's getting
Yeah,
drafted.
he's getting drafted.
He might
Um,
be. Is he a redshirt junior?
I can't remember.
That's what I'm saying.
I
Could
know
he
he got. I
possibly
know he
play
got
one more?
hurt.
He could.
He needs to go. He needs to
Yeah.
go make some money. Well, sorry. He's sorry. He
I
can
mean,
stay in college and
he
make
could
money.
make
But
money
like,
if
yeah, he
if
would. Sorry, I
if
can't. You can't say that anymore.
if
But
Scatterbo is back, if Scatterbo is back, they will be back next year. If he's not, like
We'll
I
see.
think they could still make some noise for sure. The one thing that I want to ask y'all is, so there was probably like two controversial calls in that game. So
I know
first,
one of them.
first on the Cam Scatterbo long catch, do we think OPI or DPI?
It's some decent. There's a decent amount of hand fighting there. Normally, in from what I've seen in college, like consistently, it's more of a no call when there's that amount of hand fighting. But what I will say is Scatabo is full extension on his, and that's generally an OPI. If you have like if it's like this and they're just kind of like jostling back and forth, like they let it play. They're more so than like pros, like NFLs. They don't let that they don't let anything go. But he was like full extension on that. Generally, I would lean towards an OPI, but the defender was pretty handsy as well.
That's kind of. I think college football they try to refereeing. They try to make it similar to NBA in the sense of like if there's that much hand fighting and the offensive guy catches it and it turns into a touchdown, it's OPI. If it's like there's that much hand fighting and he doesn't make a catch, it's defensive pass
Yeah,
interference. You know what I mean? It's like one of those where the result kind of factors into it. But I mean, I like the no call. I think there was a little bit there of, hey, we want to make this into a game a little bit. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I
So
mean, they called it DPI. It's just there was a face mask right after it. So I
yeah.
mean, that's what got accepted. I think it was a fairly good no call. I think it was more on the OPI side. Um, but
I'm with you. If
the
you're gonna
one
call
thing
one, it should have been
the one
OPI.
thing that I hate is that you see it so many times in all of football, college football, NFL football. It is an underthrown ball that causes a defensive pass interference.
I hate that. Yeah.
That's what I don't understand. Like we see the uncatchable thing when it's too far.
Yeah,
If a guy's
Well,
running full speed and it's behind him,
they tell
he's
QBs to miss short.
yes,
I will
They
say
tell QBs to miss that way.
because like 75% of the rule is that the defensive back has to be playing the football. Usually when that happens, they run face first into each
Yeah,
other
they're
because
not
the
looking at the
defensive
ball.
guy doesn't turn around. I
Yeah,
get
they're
your
not.
point, Will, where as a defensive guy, you don't know to turn around for that. And it's just kind of the way of the road. So, I mean, if you're the coach, you got to tell them to miss short so that you can have a chance of that. And
Yeah,
I think
and
I've even seen adjustments made in game where guys start missing short on purpose just to maybe
yep,
get a call like that. So
yep, they'll do that. They're
it's
taught to
tough.
miss that way. And
That's
then
why that's why
receivers. Go ahead.
defensive back is the hardest position to play in football for sure.
Receivers
Maybe
are
other than
taught
quarterback.
late hands, late hands, so they don't show, and so then DB's not going to get their eyes around because there's nothing for him to go off of on the receiver. He's trying to keep up with the receiver at the same time. So if there's late hands, it's like by the time the ball's already there, he's not looking back.
Yeah.
Like that's generally when you get a lot of defensive pass interference on plays like that.
I'll say for the comment in the chat that they'll be back next year. I think possibly without Scatabo, they could still be a good team because I don't think a lot of people remember at the beginning of the season they were predicted to come in last of the
Yeah,
Big
last
12.
place.
So I think
Is
coaching
Levitt back?
like
Is Levitt coming back?
yeah, he's back.
yeah, and I think he's a dog too. And
Yeah,
like
he is.
Nate says all the time, like coaching is a very, very big majority of your team's success, obviously. And I think that coach over there, I think guys want to play for him. I think he's a great coach. I think he's the best coach in the Big 12, if
You
not
saying he's
top
better than
3.
Prime?
I mean, look at his results, right?
One thing
I'm all for it, but you're the biggest supporter of Prime here.
I'll say
Now,
I mean, I will say, out of this short group here, I do support Coach Prime and what he does over there at Colorado. But I mean, they were predicted to come in last in the Big 12, and they end up coming out of the playoffs and really playing in a game that they really could have won against Texas, who was ranked number 1 in the country for a long time this season. So impressive. And I just, if they get another solid running back, which I think won't be hard for them to do, and I think this boosts their recruiting tools and their transfer portal tools and all of that, then we could see
Yeah,
Arizona State
they're on
being
the map
pretty much
now.
a
They're on the
force,
map.
right? And like we talked about, the Big 12 isn't really like super powerful, widespread talent throughout the conference. Like we're talking about maybe BYU stays consistent. Colorado might stay consistent because of their ability to recruit and have a good roster. And then maybe Kansas State, right? But like nobody else in the Big 12 right now feels like a huge threat at all. And Kansas State
No.
is kind of a stretch.
It's a lot of very similar teams outside of the mainstays. Kind of like the ACC. Like it's just a lot of very similar teams that play each other and beat up on each
Right.
other.
And that's why I think the why people say the SEC is the best is because of the depth and just team talent. But each conference still has, if not the depth of the SEC, they still have a very solid top.
Yeah,
at least 3.
They're all very similar to each other within their respective conferences. I think the one with the biggest disparity is probably the Big Ten. Like the Big Ten's going to have like their top, 4, and then after that, like there's a pretty steep drop off. I feel like.
And hey, it's got to be an easy tool to recruit to Arizona. I mean, you see this in the major league level of all sports. Guys that want to go, like Corbin Burns, right? Like guys want to go play in Arizona. It's a nice place to be. It's always warm. You know what I mean?
It's a good party school.
I'm about to say
It's
they're
got a good
school.
it's got a good reputation as a good party school. Yeah.
So I mean, I think if they play their cards right, they have everything in place, especially coaching and location and everything around the school to be
coaching is alma mater too. So
yeah.
So
the one thing I respect about him is he's young. He's in the new age of college football. I'm sure y'all heard about this, but he had meetings with his guys. He told the press this. He told everybody like, "Hey, if you want to transfer, I'll help you find a spot, but let's get through the playoffs first."
Yeah, he handled that really well.
And that's the new age of coaching. I mean, it's going to work with these guys.
I didn't know this rule, but if your team, I think you can enter the transfer portal
5
days,
days.
5 days after your last game.
After you're eliminated or your
I
last,
don't know,
your last game.
The Penn State backup quarterback, did he transferred before the game, right?
He was worried about not going anywhere, being able to
because he wasn't going to get a spot. So
yeah, I mean, you still got your grace period to find somewhere else, right?
But everybody might have quarterbacks by the time.
Yeah, like he was worried. He wanted to start, and so he was like, okay, if I wait until because as far as we know, they could go win the Natty. Say it's January, late January. Everyone's gonna have their quarterback already.
Yeah.
What team doesn't have a quarterback right now?
Right. True.
Did
I guess that hurts. I guess that hurts George's guy then, because he waited.
Yes, it does.
Freaking scumbag of a player, man. Sorry, I don't like that. But have you seen his track record?
Oh, it's bad.
We were talking about last night.
The guy's just taking a tour at every Southeast school in America.
Wants to check them all out.
And
Arizona State.
And he sued Florida.
Yeah, sued Florida and Billy Napier.
Ended up going to Miami, and then Arizona State, Georgia, and now he's back. Like, come on, man. NCAA might need to have a commissioner to sort some rules out.
Those are the scenarios where like it's the Wild West, and we've got to like temper this a little bit. Like, there's got to be some roadblocks to like you can't just do everything you want to do.
Right.
Yeah, just getting off track here because I know Oregon's coming up soon. Did y'all see what their quarterback did? He had like 5 days of practice with the team, saw Dante Moore, and just said, "I'm out." It was that incoming freshman. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce his last name.
Oh, wait, at Oregon?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Yes, I heard Josh Pate talking about this. He
Yeah.
saw Dante Moore with the scout team and was like, "Nah, I'm done." And transferred to Cal because Mendoza left.
Because
Yeah.
He's gonna
Mendoza's
start
gone.
there. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness!
He
I
was
saw that.
he was one of the highest
I
rated
started to laugh.
quarterbacks in this class. 5 practices, he's done.
I'll find his name. Because it's like some like I think it's like a
It's
Russian or
harder. It's
something like
harder
that.
than Amalyava. It's harder than that.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
you
That's
did well there. You did well there
yeah.
though.
We've had all season. We were gonna get there.
Let me see here. Uh, ooh, Jaron Kiawe Sagapulitele.
That's every letter is represented.
Yeah,
Every
no.
letter in the alphabet.
I'll have
every
represented in
letter
that
except
way.
Z and Q.
I'll have that down by January 1st.
Yeah, we got
You don't have
time.
EMI. I don't even have it down. You don't have Iamaliava down.
Amalyava.
All right, we ready to move on to Ohio State, Oregon?
Yep.
Not really.
Yeah, Ohio State, Oregon. That was a football
Beating?
game.
Did Oregon get
was a-
exposed, or is Ohio
two
State
teams
that much
played.
better now? Like,
One team played. One team,
Wait, one team
was
played.
there.
did Oregon play bad? That's my question. Or is Ohio State that much better this time of year?
Both.
Oregon did not play well.
Yeah,
Oregon did not play well.
When you
Unless-
rush,
Unless Gabriel was scrambling around making a play all by himself, nothing was going to happen on offense. Like he was the only one doing anything at all. I feel like he was the only one trying. They ran for negative 0.8 yards if you count Gabriel's sack yardage. If you don't count his sack yardage, they had 14 carries for 20 yards.
It was honestly the worst Rose Bowl I've ever watched. And I
Yeah.
saw Bama get beat there last year. This was the
Yeah.
worst.
in total, it was 28 carries for negative 23.
Negative
yards.
23 yards.
Absolutely.
Negative 8 yards.
What's crazy is it took Oregon a couple hours on a plane to get there. Ohio State went cross country and just laid it to them.
Well, I think this goes back to last podcast when we were talking about this game with there's rest advantage and then there's momentum advantage, and momentum advantage tops everything you could think about.
So, Brandon, do you
Whereas-
remember when I told you that Georgia would probably benefit for not getting a bye
Yeah.
a couple months ago?
Yeah.
I don't.
A momentum
I don't
is something
think-
serious.
With the Georgia one,
No, I'm
say
just-
Georgia,
I'm just-
say
I'm just
Georgia
saying
beat
in general.
Indiana and then goes plays Notre Dame. I still think the result's the same.
No, I'm just saying in general. Like, I do feel like
we'll get into that a little bit in a second, but I just think the way Tennessee has played, or Ohio State has played since Tennessee, since taking the loss that Nate, how you say like if Bama loses, we can kind of cope with it a little bit by saying they needed this.
They needed this. Yeah.
Well, Ohio State needed that Michigan loss pretty bad, because I think that truly I think you wanted Alabama to lose to who they lose to first, Vandy.
no, I wanted them to lose at least 3 games this year to see everybody
Well,
freak out.
After the loss to Vandy, you were probably hoping that it lit a fire under them and they played like Ohio State's playing now after they lost to Michigan, because they're playing, excuse my language, FU football. They don't care who is across the line from them, and they're going to beat the crap out of you by 30 plus points every game, and they don't listen to nothing. So the momentum that they have ever since that Michigan loss, and I think, Chip Kelly, you can go back and forth with trusting him a little bit more with the offense. It's obviously paid off, but after this game and the Tennessee game combined, there's not a team right now that I can confidently say can keep up with them at all.
Dude,
The main thing is that in the Michigan game, they tried. Well, first off, Jeremiah Smith is definitely him.
No, he's him. He's one of them
Is he
for
hurt?
sure.
Is he hurt?
No,
No, he's good. Jeremiah
good?
Love for Notre Dame is hurt,
that's
but
it.
I think he still might play.
Yeah, he's gonna play.
but I think he's gonna be limited though. I'd be worried
but
about
yeah.
that one.
In the Michigan game, Ohio State just tried to change their whole scheme.
Right.
They said, "Okay, we're gonna pound the ball down Michigan's throat."
Yeah, they're
And
trying to lean on him.
Which
With
I think
Michigan, that's the D line. If anything, the D line has been their strength all year. That's the one thing they've been good at all year. And now that Ohio State's actually, okay, we have Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, and Carnell Tate is still very good. And then we have Will Howard, who has finally started to throw the deep ball well. And then, not to mention, you got Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. Spread them out, run off the tackles, throw the ball downfield, get the ball in the hands of your playmakers. Don't try and beat down a team with a good
Yeah.
D line.
Here's what I think happened behind the scenes. Ohio State goes to play Michigan, and Ryan Day talks to Chip Kelly and goes, "We ain't going with your game plan. We're going to walk into their house and beat them at their own game," and it didn't work. Ever since then, Chip Kelly said, "Hey, Ryan Day, if you want to keep your job, you're going to listen to what I have to call, and we're going to run the plays I call, and we're going to beat teams by 30." So I think that's the negative side of Ryan Day, where he just needs to be more of that quote unquote leader of men instead of an offensive coordinator, and they'll be a pretty good football team.
Yeah, the whole season didn't look like a typical Chip Kelly called offense.
Now it does.
No, it
Yeah,
does.
it does now. Yeah.
Now it does.
I think there's a new trust factor that's gone into that, and Ryan Day doesn't need to have a play sheet in his hand ever.
We get. I mean, all they got to do is, hey, give Jeremiah Smith the ball.
Right.
That'll be the thing for the next 2 years after this as
Yeah.
well.
You don't even have to scheme him open. He's
no.
open off the line.
No,
Like, you
and
don't have
that's
to
the
scheme
thing.
him.
That's
Can't
the thing
cover
I
him.
don't understand with what Oregon tried to do is like they left him open on what was it, 2-3 touchdown plays, deep
Yeah.
touchdown plays. How do you leave that guy open? Why have we not switched the man so there's at
I don't
least
know, man.
somebody
That's the
in
one thing
control of him?
He's
they
catching
started to
balls over
scheme him
guys,
open.
too.
They started to scheme like he used to be the X receiver. Oh, he's only on the left side. Go up deep threat. Then in the Oregon game, they were like, okay, we're gonna use him in motions, put him in the slot, and
Yeah, they
also he
slotted him
could
a
be the
couple
extra.
times.
He was instead of him being okay on the X receiver, he turned into Marvin Harrison Jr. from last
Right.
year, where he's moved around the entire formation.
And I mean, I think Oregon has plenty of talent on defense, but I think the scheme and lack of adjustments that were made just was absolutely detrimental because
Well,
I've watched plenty of film this season, and it's like the really, really good defensive teams make adjustments within a few plays, not a quarter, not a half, a few plays. And if you're not making those adjustments, if we're running zone and then we're getting Jeremiah Smith running by himself twice, I'm automatically switching to at least some kind of man coverage to where he's accounted for every single play.
Kicking
And
the
then
safety
somebody
off the
else can try to beat us, but he's not. Somebody's going to be
Hey.
on top of him, and I'm probably going to have a safety over the top.
It's got to be a double in man though. No one can guard him in college football. No one.
no.
It's got to be a double.
No, can't be done.
He's
Um,
6'3",
you have
225.
You have to
can-
bracket him. You have to
You can
bracket
play
him.
soft and keep him up under, but then he's just going to break the long runs.
I mean,
He's good.
like
He's a good
And
yak
that's
guy
fine.
too.
I mean, hey, that's fine as long as we're not giving up 70-yard touchdown bombs. You know, we'll let them get to the red zone. Field
Will-
shrinks. We'll try to shorten it up. But
Will Howard
you
is
give up
throwing just
60, 70-yard bombs first
He's
couple
throwing-
plays of the game.
he's
Come
throwing
on.
moon shots, and Smith is just going up and grabbing them. Like I mean,
Yeah.
I saw something too. Will Howard could not throw the deep ball very well this entire year. Then he changes up his footwork. His footwork looks great now. And now he's pushing the ball downfield with pace. I mean, we saw it in the throw to Egbuka. I think like right at the end of the first half. That was a dot in between three defenders that he had to get over them down the field. And so yeah, he's actually able to throw the deep ball, which is a threat now. And
Which is wild it took this long for a college team with that many resources to figure out.
yeah,
me,
and
Which,
I'd
I mean,
also-
props to them for figuring it out and helping them out. But
Better late than
holy-
never.
I texted this to everyone with while the game was going on. I said, and at the time the Patriots had the number one pick. They don't anymore. I said, if I'm the Patriots and Jeremiah Smith is in this draft, he's my one, and Drake May has his number one for 5+
yeah.
years.
I mean, he right now he looks like he's like the next Calvin Johnson, the next Julio.
Yeah.
And
Being
one of them.
he's 18 years old.
But yeah, being 6'3", 225 at 18 is
Yeah.
ridiculous. I'm
Right,
5'9", 170 at
You don't
22.
even, these freshmen, you don't put on the power 4 weight room weight that these juniors and seniors have. So I'm very, very excited to see how, they keep developing him into a bigger, faster, stronger.
He's going to
wide
end up
receiver
looking
than he
like
already
DK
is.
Metcalf.
Yeah. just
He
better.
kind of already does, and he'll
Yeah.
look even more shredded.
All right. So for this game, I didn't go over Arizona State and Texas. I had Arizona State plus 13. That hit obviously went to OT. Brandon had the Texas cover. It was looking good initially. So I feel bad for you there, but that would have meant I would lose. So we can't have
Tough
that.
break. Good game though. Good game to watch. Not too mad
Excellent
at it.
game. Will had great selection right here. Texas minus 6.5 first half.
Called the
Absolute.
great game
Yeah, that
script
was
to a T.
yeah, that was fantastic. And then Nate had over 51.5, which obviously hit most of the time when a game goes to OT, you're probably going to hit that over.
Oh yeah.
For clean sweep for Ohio State and Oregon, I had Ohio State over 27.5. Obviously, that
That hit in the
happened.
first quarter.
Yeah. Brandon had Ohio State money line. That obviously happened. And then Will and Nate both had over 55.5, which was a little bit more of a sweat, but Oregon scored some points as well to
Yeah, I
help
think it
out.
hit in like the
How-
late third quarter.
Yeah.
How many unders have hit in the playoff? One?
No, I think
Probably that
two
seems
two
right
two hit in the first round.
Two? Okay.
And then
because it was one
the
sided.
Georgia Notre Dame
Yes.
hit the under.
In Indiana Notre Dame under hit, SMU Penn under hit,
Okay.
and
so it's
then
more. Okay.
Then the next two went over.
UGA Notre Dame under hit.
It just seems like there's been a lot of points scored. But it might just because typically it's one team scoring all the points.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why. Like
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the last game of the quarterfinals. Heartbreaking game here for me and Brandon.
Yep.
UGA versus Notre Dame. Brandon, what are your initial thoughts here?
Initial thoughts are, I mean, other than the game, a ton of distractions before this game.
Yeah,
I mean, the game was in New Orleans. If you haven't heard, there was a terrorist attack in New Orleans the night before the game. Well, actually, the night of the game. It was at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And then also to make it even worse, Kirby Smart's dad was actually in the hospital during the game and ended up dying after the game. So thoughts and prayers go out to everybody out there in New Orleans and the Smart family. But game wise, to me, let me just start off with the positive. I think Gunnar Stockton has a lot of potential. I'm excited to see him for the next year, hopefully the next few years. I think he's a similar to like this is a stretch, but kind of like a Dylan Gabriel esque player where he can do it with both ways, but he's going to be a hopefully a solid pocket passer and like kind of oh crap, this play's gone to crap. Let me get 10 yards with my legs. So something like that. But he has potential. And I just think this game almost felt like to me when it was over, Georgia's season has been a long, hard fought road. And it's like finally just got to take the dog out back and put him down. You know, it's just like the schedule was very, very tough.
No pun
Had to
intended.
play Texas twice. And it was just like, man, we're injured. We have our backup in, which is a good solution. Like Gunnar Stockton, props to him. I think he played well, played good enough.
he was
But
not the problem. I can say
no,
that for certain. He was not the problem.
and to me, the defense played pretty well. Also, I think we gifted Notre Dame 2 touchdowns. I know there was the fumble before the half, the kick return coming out of half. It was just like you could tell this was a Georgia team that didn't feel locked in as they felt in some games this season. And it felt like just in total, you could sense that very early on in the games that Georgia's lost this year, where they're not locked in, something doesn't feel right. They're not going to play to their level. And I think Notre Dame just did a really good job of out executing them at pretty much every aspect of it, which is
Just about.
upsetting coming from a Kirby Smart led team. And props to Notre Dame, man. I've said it to you guys, like they defensive line very undersized, I would say, in comparison, but they make up for that with speed and absolute athleticism. It felt like Gunnar Stockton, the game plan wasn't for him to try to use his legs, but he had to because we couldn't block them, which is
No, he was running for his life.
I hate that because Georgia's supposed to have a really good offensive line. Their guys are talented, they're big, they're strong, they're athletic, but nothing you can do. And Riley Leonard, on the other hand, sometimes we were getting pressure to him, but he would instead, veteran like, would actually get plays that would get 10, 15 yards that were almost like heartbreakers. So I don't know. Like, as of the rule is you can't bet like a fan. I had to, you got to. When it's win, go to the semifinal for your team that's had a long road, long time to get there, hard fought season. You got to bet for your team. You got to root for them. But it's tough. I just think Notre Dame, to me, looks like if they execute like they did this game, they are the only team now that I think that can keep up with an Ohio State, and potentially win. So that's my opinion. But like I said, the future is still bright for Georgia. I think it will be for the next few years to come.
Yeah, a couple things from me. Uh, Dylan Bell sucks.
Yeah,
He
he's
can't. He
not.
can't
Well,
freak. He can't freaking catch, dude.
let's be
He can't
honest.
catch.
They
Let's
haven't
be
been mid.
honest.
They've been ass.
He can't catch.
No, they
Dylan
haven't.
Bell, it was supposed to be this year's number 3 or 4 receiver. In this game, he had to be number one, and he has been because Colby Young got exited from the team because he had a charge against him. Um, well,
Yeah,
one Arian Smith can't catch, and then
he can't catch either.
Ra Thomas got booted from the team because he had a DUI or something like that going on. So
It was an abuse one on that one.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Dylan Bell wasn't supposed to be the number one, and when he's your number one, your skill position is kind of lacking.
Hell, Cash tried to drop his touchdown pass. That's like it was just
Yeah, he
thrown
did.
too good. Cash tried to drop that thing. You can't. He was juggling that thing around. He tried to drop it. He tried
Yeah,
to.
I think that's one thing that Georgia will lack in the future as well. The defense is going to be really good next year, again, but the skill position that we've got to have something because of why do I always forget his name? The guy from Missouri. Um,
Burden.
no, whatever his name is, but he it's just kind of disappointing because he's supposed to be your one. He's supposed to be a guy, and it just seems like nobody answered the bell all year to be that number one skill guy. ETN's good, Nate Frazier's going to be good. The run game, I'm okay with the run game, but
They did do that. They did get two legitimate
yeah,
wide
Branch will
receivers.
be good. Yeah.
Branch, yeah,
and
exactly.
I think it was Tylen Taylor or something like that. He's an incoming freshman. Dude runs like a 4.2. So exciting stuff. And you always got to know, like, schools like Georgia, Alabama, even Notre Dame, Ohio State, all those big top 10 schools, they're going to reload. They're going to
Yeah, they're
fix
gonna
the
reload.
problem almost immediately if they can't. But I don't know. Notre Dame is fast, man, and they stick to what they do well, and they trust it, and they do it really, really well, which is play man coverage. They force you to beat them, and that's a tough ask for a guy that has had a half of legitimate football, and the rest of his experience this year has been in garbage time against like UMass. So it's tough. Glad Gunnar Stockton got that experience because hopefully we'll be in a similar situation next year. But I mean, props to Notre Dame. They're a good football team. They deserve
Yeah,
to be here.
Notre Dame is they've got a game plan and it's the same one every game and they just execute that. They don't care who they're playing. They have this type
Right.
of football, this brand of football that they're going to play and they're just going to execute that brand of football regardless of the other
I
circumstances. They're going to
mean,
run the ball, they're going to play hard on the line. They're going to fly to the football on
right,
defense. Like every dude every time someone's tackled, there is four dudes in the area making that tackle.
right.
And they prey on turnovers. They prey on
In
them.
in theory, yep, Dominic Lovett is the name I was looking for. Thanks, chat. But in theory, like every college football coach in America writes their game plan up on paper and it works, right? It works on the piece of paper, it works on the X's and O's. And it honestly comes down to who executes their game plan better. And Notre Dame, I think, is a team this year that has perfected that to the most part.
They just do it.
Yeah,
They
they
just do
just
it.
do it. And we'll see. My prediction, we'll get to it the preview in a minute, but I think Notre Dame is and has been. They haven't gotten a lot of credit this year. I don't think because they did have that bad loss, but if you look past that, they've been a top 5 football team easily all year.
Nate
So
doesn't give them any credit.
no, he
No, he
doesn't.
doesn't.
We'll
My
see.
main
We'll
my
see.
main thing with this one is I am mad at myself. I think I was the only one out of all of us four that
You
actually
weren't sure.
I
Like
was not sure. All three of y'all were like Georgia's winning this football game,
I was betting like
and
a fan.
I was like
I thought
I'm
they were
not.
gonna win.
I mean yeah like I was the only one that was like okay Notre Dame like I think Notre Dame can win this football game, and I was like okay I don't trust Marcus Freeman as much as I trust Kirby Smart. And then Marcus Freeman straight up and win and out coach Kirby Smart, which
Yeah.
is very tough to do.
Yeah.
Well,
He won
like
he
I
won me
said,
over in that game.
he definitely did outcoach him. A lot of distractions for Kirby
Yeah,
Smart. Let's be honest.
for
And
sure.
I think I've become a Georgia fan for so long. I'm starting to get a gut feeling every time that they're going to roll out there and have a bad game. Like even this year, man. Like Ole Miss going to Ole Miss had a gut feeling it was going to be a struggle. Alabama, that's always a gut feeling when you're a Georgia fan, right? This game, and
You sent something in the chat. You sent us something in the group chat
yeah, it was
when
along the
Kirby's
lines of
dad
I don't know,
fell.
man. Yeah,
No,
Notre
you
Dame.
said
Yeah,
they're gonna lose this game. Like you
yeah.
literally said Georgia was gonna lose.
And it comes down to anytime. Like, let me put it this way: Georgia, I still think is a top 5 football team in the grand scheme of college football this season, and they have been a top 5 organization since 2021. Um, but they get to these big games, and it just feels like if everything doesn't go perfect, they're gonna lose. And it just felt like off the rip, something was off. It wasn't perfect. There's a lot of distractions. Game got delayed. The head coach's dad is in ICU in the hospital. Like, if you're any coach at any level, there's a lot of distractions going on. I mean, one, you got to think about your dad. Two, you got to think about the safety of your football team and yourself. And it's just props to Notre Dame. It almost felt like, I'm sure, they had the same things going on pretty much in New Orleans, but they stepped onto the football field and it felt like they had zero outside distractions. They handled their business accordingly and they did what they needed to do. And you saw it. I mean, the score showed it. So
Yep. So at Thursday, 9:47 a.m., Brandon texted us with a picture of the news feed about Kirby's dad falling, and he said, "Dogs are cooked, man."
yep.
So you had a gut feeling at 9:47 a.m. the day of the game,
Telling
and
you.
you were
Hey,
right.
you guys, we all played sports in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just wake up and you have a gut feeling.
Yeah.
Today's either going to be a great day or we're gonna struggle today.
We're
You know
gonna
what I mean?
struggle.
Like I know 3 of us here have played college baseball, and you could just tell you
Just
go
call me out
Friday,
like that.
Saturday, Sunday. Sometimes you wake up on the weekend and say, "Today might not be my day, man." So I don't know. I think I've been a Georgia fan long enough to kind of somehow have like a telepathical vibe to how the team's working that day. You know?
I love that word, telepathical.
Yeah. Is
I'm
that
gonna
a is
use
that a
that.
real word?
I don't think that's a real word, but I love it.
See,
So we're gonna
mine
institute that.
mine's kind of like the exact opposite. Every time I think Florida has absolutely zero shot in a
You
game,
did it about the whole season. You said
they
they're gonna win
surprise
3
me.
games.
Yeah.
Like I'll take it back to when Will Greer was out there and Ole Miss was the number one team in the country. I went to a movie during the game because I was like, this is going to be a bloodbath. I come out and we are up 38-10. I'm like, what is going on? And then
I mean,
like
hey, I think Will, you're just like I'm a Georgia super fan. I think you're a Florida super fan to the next level where it's like the over exaggeration and overreaction to each game
Yeah.
is very very off the map. Like
It's
we are
done.
either
Burn it down. Burn
like
the whole thing down.
God dang it, we're gonna lose by 87 points today, and then they win. It's like, hey, sometimes you got to set the bar low just so hopefully you can exceed the bar and then
I
feel
mean,
good
yeah,
about it.
the bar was super low this year and we go 8-5. I
Hey,
mean,
hey, props to Florida though. They weren't supposed to be good. They weren't supposed to be great. They had a tough schedule. Came
I'm,
out, went to a bowl game, won it,
I'm
smoked
starting
them.
to learn how to have those gut feelings after this year. This year taught me a lot.
Yeah, see, Nate hasn't had to have gut feelings because he's had Nick Saban and like some of
They've
the
been
best
winning.
college football teams
Yeah.
ever to play college
Just a
football.
sure
So he
thing.
just
They're winning
wakes
it.
up, they roll out there, and they win. Like
Yeah.
now, you're starting to come back down to the real world, Nate, where us gritty college football fans have to deal with a loss every now and then.
Yeah. Also, coming in from the chat, yes, I don't get how ESPN doesn't show the national anthem after a terrorist attack. It's like how on 9/11, every time they show the national anthem in a football game. I mean, we all know why. We all know why they didn't show it, but yeah,
Right.
that's something you
Bad
always
look.
have to show every time. Like it's because like I don't know if like every time like something happens like that, the crowd chants USA like every time because as divided as Notre Dame and UGA were, what were they all? Americans.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
And I think that's a poor job of an ESPN because, yeah, you got over 50,000 people in the stadium, but you got probably over 6 million people
Yeah,
watching it
you got
on
millions
TV. And
watching.
yeah,
for something of that tragic to happen and to not show that and to almost feel like they were hiding some kind of like they were hiding the unity that comes from that is a red flag to me.
Yeah.
What are we doing? What do you gain or what do you lose from not showing that? I
Right.
don't understand.
Yeah. I don't get it. Anything else on this one?
mm-mm.
No.
So, all right, real quick, because we're gonna go over an hour, but we're gonna be shy of 2 hours. I can guarantee that. Thoughts? Let's just do real quick, kind of like a little round table. Rest versus rust. I think it's worth talking about because every single team that had the bye lost. And is this like, is it coincidence or like, is there something? I know we see it in baseball, and it's like, people talk crap about the Braves when they had the bye and then they came out flat, and then the Phillies had the bye and they came out flat, and now these guys get the bye and half of them come out flat except for Arizona State. I mean, do you guys think there's anything to this, or did
I
did the
mean,
better teams just win
Oh,
football
we
games?
I
said that.
definitely think there's something to be said about maybe it's not the buy creating rust, but it's an opportunity for the teams that did play to continue to gain momentum
I love that.
and to
Yeah.
continue to kind of transcend into a team. And you hear it all the time with teams saying, like, especially with baseball and sometimes with football, basketball, all the big sports is like, not all the times do the best rosters, the best coaches win. It's the team that is playing the best football at that time win. So, having a 2-week bye, even if you have a better roster, pretty much, it's almost like, okay, well, if this team continue like Ohio State right now, it's like this team's playing their best football at the correct time. Whereas other teams, yes, they get a bye, they get rest advantage, which is insanely important in football. Don't get me wrong. That is probably the best thing you can have in football. But there's no time for you to gain momentum, gain that chemistry in an atmosphere that even if you've played in big games during the season, it's not like playoff energy when it's do or
No.
die. You know what I mean? So I think there is a little something to be said where I still think the better teams won. I'll say that. But I do think that these games might have been a little bit better if everybody had to get to play. So um, I don't know. I'll be interested to see if they tweak it a little bit. If this continues to happen, like if next year we go back and every 4 teams that have a bye get beat, I'm sure there'll be a lot more chatter about it and they might tweak it a hair, but I don't know.
I would personally love it if there wasn't a bye. Give them home field. Give them home field
I like that.
advantage. If they're a higher seed, fine. I love that. I
Well,
think a lot of these games should be played on home turf anyways. Like
yeah, I
the
like that.
NFL does it. Like
Right.
every playoff for every pro team does the same thing.
So give 1 through 4 a bye, but then instead of having to travel to New Orleans, let's play at Stanford Stadium. You know
Yeah,
what
if
I
you want
mean?
to do it that way. I
So
mean,
that makes a harder road for the lower seed, which is what people want too. You know what
sure.
I mean?
So like flip it. Either that. If there's no everyone just plays. There's no bye. There's no advantage for that, but they get home field, or they get the bye, but they also get home field. Like
True. I like
I
this
think that's
comment.
like an
Yeah.
equalizer.
I like that comment right there because who's that put in there that should have got a bye? Ohio State,
Texas.
Texas.
Like if it was by the top four teams, it would be Texas and Penn State.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I
those are two teams that are in the Final Four.
Yeah.
I
So
think the biggest
there's
thing
an argument for that, but
is you got to separate regular season and playoffs. During the regular season, like when Bama and Georgia both had a bye, they are scheming for each other for what 14 days.
yeah,
When you're in the playoffs, say Oregon, they didn't know if they were scheming for Ohio State or Tennessee. Georgia, they didn't know if they were scheming for Notre Dame or Indiana. You only have what 5 or 6 days to prepare for a team rather than 2 weeks. I
that's
think that's
true.
a little
That's a
bit of
good
the
point.
bigger difference.
In this one,
Yeah.
they had about like I think they had about like 10 days or something like that. Because I know we talked about rest
Well,
advantage with like Notre Dame going into Georgia, even when like Georgia had longer rest, but Notre
Yeah.
Dame still got like 10 days. I
Still
think it was
had
a
like
game
a
by
week and a half off.
I
Yeah.
think
I
it was a
would
game by game
say
basis.
I would say max 8 days because you got travel and you got media
Yeah.
days and all that. I would say max you have 8 days to prepare how you want,
Yeah.
which
And
still is, I would say,
More than normal.
enough
More
time.
than normal.
Yeah, more than normal, enough time. But at the same time, I do think you're totally right, Cam. We should flip it to you get a bye, but you also get to play at home.
I
So
think
so there's some advantage to that
like
other
until
than
like the
rest.
semifinals, maybe, I think they should all be home field advantage. I understand like you've got to have the bowl games, like the big five or big six bowl games. You got to have those. Like I get that, but I think more of these should be played on home turf. Just
Yeah.
be
Yeah,
like that's like your reward for doing so well in the regular season. Like to me,
right.
that just kind of is what it equates to.
Do
And I
you
just didn't
see
feel like there was much of a reward for doing well in the or winning like conference championship. Like you get the
Yeah.
time off, but then you got to travel to Texas to
And
play a game.
I'm big on rest, but I feel like this season rest hasn't been a huge end all be all of teams that like we talk about rest advantage a lot more so importantly in baseball. I think where pitching
it's a
wise
little
and
different?
all
Yeah,
those guys, but rest advantage is huge in football. Don't think it's not, but I think at this end of the season, you got to keep
no,
playing. You know what I mean? You
yeah.
got to keep building
If this
and ride the momentum.
if this format stays the same, do you see one-loss teams in the future kind of tanking their conference championship?
no.
I don't.
Because
I
like
don't think
there's
that.
no advantage to be a top 4 seed. Actually, I think there's less of an advantage.
I mean, yeah,
Would
but like
I?
also there's like and you could say the same thing for like MLB. Are we going to see teams tank their
Unless
division
you're
and
the
not win it?
Braves.
But I think they're gonna want to win regardless. Because I mean, there's also like benefits to winning the conference. Like I believe you get a certain amount of money, like a certain amount of brand deals, like
No, yeah,
stuff
you
like
do.
that. It's
Right.
stuff off the field. Besides the you get 2 weeks off now instead of playing the next week.
Yeah.
It's stuff off the field that helps your program.
There's just no
I
reason to
could
be a
see
top
that.
4 seed.
I could see that in some situations. Like I know personally, if you ask any coach in the SEC, would you want to win the SEC championship or not go to the SEC championship and make it to the playoff? I guarantee you, every coach would say, "I want to win the SEC." Because there's just a pride thing that goes behind it too, right? Like we won the SEC. We're the best team in widely considered the best conference in college football.
And I would
So
argue for like, especially like the ACC and Big 12, like I think it's vital for those teams to play slash win their conference championship game. So like for those, for those two conferences, like specifically them, because if you don't play in your conference championship game and you're those two, like you don't have a resume to get into the playoff anyways. So
Like
for
right.
them,
Miami.
it's vital for them to play in that game.
what if the winner of the conference championship, who is supposed to get the bye, what if the committee said it's up to you? Do you want to play in the first round or do you want the bye?
Whew.
I think
Then
every team takes the bye. I think every team
then
takes the bye.
You get the
probably
rest. Yeah,
so.
you probably want the rest.
But let's say in 5 years we still have the same format and we're teams that have a bye are 0-20.
Yeah.
Then
That
what?
won't happen.
Then you
They had
got to
4
try
weeks
it, you know?
off. They had like 4 weeks off.
Yeah. Then you got to say, nah, don't give us it's cursed or something.
Yeah. All right. We ready to preview?
You're
Let's do it.
Semifinal games. What do we want to start with?
we'll
What's
go with
first? Is Penn State
Penn
first?
State.
Yeah,
Penn
let's
State,
go Penn State.
Penn State, Notre Dame. Last time I saw the line, I saw Notre Dame at -1.5 with an over/under at 44.5. Are these correct?
It was up to 45, but yeah.
Penn
45. All
State's
right.
also they're even right now, so it's pretty much a flip them or pick
It's a
them.
flip 'em.
Pick them.
It's
Sorry,
a
pick 'em.
flip 'em. It's a pick flip 'em. Okay.
I'm gonna keep
Who would
my
like to go?
I'm gonna keep my reasoning short and simple, right? I think Georgia is a better team than Penn State. I'll die on that hill, even with Gunner Stockton. And Notre Dame just beat Georgia. So for this game and this line to be very, very close, it's pretty much an easy pick to me to go Notre Dame money line because what is it? -120 at the highest, right?
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, it's going to fluctuate, but
It's
yeah, it's
minus
going to be
it's
in
minus
there.
120 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, to get Notre Dame, who's looked very, very dominant against Indiana, for the most part, they executed. Like we said, they out executed Georgia out of all teams in every facet of the game. There's nothing very red flaggish, staring me in the face saying Penn State could win this game. Do I think they could? Yes, because we have seen Notre Dame struggle um, in games sometimes, and they did have the bad loss, but they have, like we've been talking about, a lot of momentum. I would say more so than Penn State because Penn State just came off of a game where it seemingly was pretty dominant for them. Where I think Notre Dame was tested a little bit more than Penn State was. So to me, I think Notre Dame is on paper the better team, from the film the better team. They have the better roster from top to bottom, and the line being the -120 for the money line. To me, it seems like low risk based on everything that I just said. So I'm going Notre Dame money line.
You want me to go because mine's gonna be pretty short too.
That's
Yep.
fine, yeah.
All right, yeah. So and I'm going off if Penn State does this. So Riley Leonard is not the greatest thrower of the football, as you would say.
Correct.
I think Penn State, if they go out there, kind of do what they did against Boise State, if they sell out for the run, force Riley Leonard to try to beat them with the arm, it's not. I don't think it's personally going to happen. So even I'm going to take Penn State's money line to win this ball game. I think their defense is going to hold up. I think they're going to do just what I said. I think Drew Allard's going to have a great game, even maybe use his legs a little bit. And I think it's going to be close, but Penn State wins.
Here's my quick rebuttal to that statement is Riley Leonard doesn't just have to do it with his arm, as we've seen all season, where he can
Well,
say
that's what I
Penn
said. I think Penn State's going to put a spy on him. I really do. If they
right,
do,
but
I don't think they score.
if that happens, somebody's open. You know what I mean? So you got to make throws, and let's not sit here and say Riley Leonard is like your boy from what was it, Eastern Carolina, and he just flat out sucks at throwing the football.
Jake
Dude,
Garcia,
Jake
yeah,
Garcia.
He doesn't suck, but he's not going to win a football game with his arm.
I think he can.
right, but
Will
he
he have
doesn't.
to? No.
He's not going to beat Penn
Yeah,
State
that's what
with
I was
his
gonna
arm.
say. Will he's probably not gonna have to ever in his life because he can run so effectively.
I think
And
Penn State's going to make him throw it.
Penn State just went up. They did look pretty good, but you got to think about, like we talked about earlier on this show, where the roster from Notre Dame is a lot more physical than the roster from Boise State. And if you think Drew Allard's going to use his legs, did we not just watch the team speed all around from Notre Dame at every position on the field?
I think Penn State has the best 1-2 on the offensive side of the ball. I think that's why they're winning this game. That, and obviously, like I said, they're going to stop Riley Leonard from throwing. Or sorry, they're going to force him to throw. I just don't see, and I know Will said like it earlier, I'm not high on Notre Dame, whatever.
You're
They're
not high
good.
on
They're
Penn State.
they're a good football team.
Yeah.
Now the fact that I'm picking Penn State should be a shock.
That's true.
to me.
He hates Franklin. Yeah.
I know. That was
This
that was
must
gonna be
hurt.
my
This has got to hurt him.
No, like,
Where,
dude,
where does the Notre Dame hate come from?
dude,
What
I
have they not proven?
I've not
They don't play in a
respected-
conference.
They don't play in a conference.
Yeah,
They
but
play
just
my
smoke-
ACC
they
schools
just
all
smoke
year.
two teams that play in
No,
conferences,
No, I get that, but even if
and
you
they smoke Texas A&M, and they smoke USC.
even if you look at the offensive production against Georgia, it wasn't. I know Georgia's got good defense. It was not like just astronomical numbers out there. I mean,
I will
I don't
say,
know.
like, it wasn't like, oh my God, this is the best defense ever, but they obviously made it very much so easier on their offense from half the plays that they had.
It's just hard to think Penn State's going to give up rush yards with what I know it was Boise State, but with the scheme I just saw, it's just hard to believe that Notre Dame is going to run down the field on them.
That's fair. I mean, you make good points. I think Riley Leonard is more of a gamer. He's got the Cam Scatabo kind of mentality that
He
that
makes
can
he makes
lead them.
plays when
Yeah,
they need to happen.
He's got a
right.
weak he's got a weaker arm, but he reminds me a lot like AJ McCarron on how he just plays the game.
He's
There you go.
he's
Like
more
just his
mobile than
no, he's
McCarron
more
for
mobile,
sure.
but like just his mentality as a quarterback.
Like right
Yeah.
now, he kind of reminds me of like a Josh Allen.
In comparison to athletic skills, yes.
Yeah.
I can go ahead and go with mine because I'm gonna second Brandon. I'm gonna take Notre Dame money line.
Wow. I thought for
Because
sure you were going Penn State.
I love Penn State. I love Penn State.
Hey, Nate, that should be a red flag for you because
No,
Will
man.
has been very, very, very
Hey.
high on Penn State for a long
I
time.
think I would not be shocked if Penn State wins this game. And the one thing that gets me to Notre Dame, or there's two things. Marcus Freeman, trust him more than James Franklin. Second, I think this game is going to be very low scoring. Both defenses are very good. When it comes to low scoring games, what usually happens that tips it in someone's favor? Turnovers. Who gets turnovers? Notre Dame. They are the best team in the country at forcing turnovers. And so I think that's what it's going to come down to. Which quarterback plays better and doesn't turn the ball over, or which team doesn't turn the ball over? And I think Notre Dame is going to do that because they have, out of all three of their units, offense, defense, and special teams, they play the best complementary football in the country. They might not be the best team, like that's Ohio State, I think, in my opinion. But out of all three facets of the game, they play the best complementary. Special teams helps out defense, defense helps out offense, offense helps out whatever they can. Special teams, it's all like they play as one unit. It's not three different units. So that's why I'm going to go Notre Dame money line. And also too, Abdul Carter is questionable. I think he will play.
He's
But
expected to play.
He could be limited, and Love is going to play. He could be limited as well, but I think even the Notre Dame's backup running back, he's no slouch. He's pretty solid.
Price,
Yeah,
Price, yeah.
he's pretty solid. And then Riley Leonard, I think, is the best player, or besides Abdul Carter, obviously, he's the best player on the offensive side of the football in that game.
To me, it just looks like, I know Nate doesn't like Marcus Freeman, but he really seems like a dude that's on a mission right now.
I like him more than Ryan Day.
And I will
James
say, like, Notre Dame for a long time has been a team. Well, I agree with Nate's like stance where, like, come on, join a conference, prove yourself a little bit more in the regular season. But I think Marcus Freeman is very, very tired of hearing that and is out to prove a point this year.
Do you see James Franklin said that live at a press conference with
His
him
hairline? Yeah. I think Drew Aller is the truth.
I think
You guys
he's
have been
already
hearing
gained
it.
respect.
You think like you guys have heard me all year. I think I said coming into the year I was way higher on Drew Aller than everyone, but I'm also high on Riley Leonard than a lot of people. So that's why I think Notre Dame's going to win. So I'm going to take money line. The spread it's 1.5, and it was down to 1 at one point. So I mean the values are just in the money lines. So I think you just pick whoever you think's going to win the game.
I mean, Penn State at even money to me is kind of like, why not? And that's just my personal opinion. And honestly, I might even sprinkle a little bit. This isn't a pick for the podcast on the -2.5 for Penn State just by the field goal because it's good odds. So,
I guess I'll go.
what are you gonna do?
So
Are you breaking? No, you could tie it right here, couldn't you?
Yeah.
we know Notre Dame. We know exactly what their game plan is
Oh
going to be.
God, I already know.
They're
You're
gonna
not picking
they're gonna
Notre Dame.
they're gonna stick exactly to the game plan. They're gonna run the ball. They're gonna play good defense. They're gonna force turnovers. There's two problems that I foresee with this game plan. One is they're missing Love, and Price is gonna have to have. I think he's gonna have to have 20 plus carries, and I think Penn State is also extremely good at defending the run, which would force Riley Leonard to have to throw the ball. I also think Penn State is not going to be able to run the ball that effectively either, forcing Drew Aller to throw the ball. If I have to pick one quarterback over the other to throw the ball effectively down the field, I pick Drew Aller, and I don't think it's particularly close. The other part is the turnovers in general. Penn State takes very good care of the football. They're extremely disciplined on that side of the ball. Turnovers are also a finicky thing. They're not guaranteed to happen. I know one team can be better at forcing them, but it doesn't mean that you are going to force them, especially against a team that's good at taking care of the ball. If Penn State takes care of the ball and Drew Allard throws like I think he can throw, I think there's a clear advantage for Penn State to win this football game. Notre Dame has an advantage in coaching and the want to, I believe. I think this team is on like an absolute mission. So I would not be surprised at all if they win this football game. But just going off of the X's and O's, not the execution is remained to that's remained to be seen. But the X's and O's tell me that Penn State is more equipped to win this football game than Notre Dame is. So I'm going to go Penn State.
Will, where in the grand scheme of college football would you rank Penn State's secondary?
Secondary,
Corners and
it's
safeties.
they're above average for sure. They're not like, I wouldn't say they're
Top
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 they're
15,
top 25.
top 25. Okay. Me personally, from what I've seen, is Notre Dame's secondary might be top 3. So I think now don't let me sway your opinion or anything like that, Cam, Nate. But there's two big arguments right here staring me in the face, and one is okay. We're going to trust Drew Allard to throw the ball down the field more effectively than Riley Leonard. But Drew Allard also has to throw the football down the field against probably the top 3 secondaries in college football. And
Xavier Watts is a gamer.
possibly the best linebacker core in the nation as well. And Riley Leonard doesn't have to do that. So I think
who
goes
guards
negate
Tyler
that.
Warren? Who guards Tyler Warren?
Anybody in the secondary, they're
Stop
too
it.
fast. Any
Stop it.
linebacker.
Now, listen,
There
I'm
is
telling
not
you.
a human being
What's number
that will
24?
guard him.
Who's number 24?
There's
That
not
guy
a
will
single
cover.
human being.
He
I
will
s-
cover.
I
I
still
promise.
trust Drew Allard to scheme, or I trust a scheme and for him to throw the ball against Notre Dame more than I trust Riley Leonard to throw against an okay secondary.
And
I absolutely love
I
this. You
also
guys
think
trusting Drew Allard when you haven't all year. It's glorious to
I,
hear
tr-
with
I
Mike.
trust
I've
him.
been
with-
no. It's
I
been like
think-
week 7. It's been like week 7. I've been on board with him.
I
I
trust
think
him
Notre
twice
Dame's
as much as Riley
receivers
Leonard.
are more electric than Penn State's as well.
I think Penn State has the best catcher of the football outside of Jeremiah Smith in the entire NCAA in Tyler
But-
Warren.
But he's going to be covered probably better than he has all year.
Which will not be good enough. This
But
is
will
he
it?
is a matchup nightmare. He is a
When you got-
nightmare.
But when you got, I think the only way that he's effective is if he somehow he's been doing this a good bit this year. But if they can get him the ball quick and somehow he gets a lot of run after catch, because I don't think Drew Allard's going to have a crazy ample amount of time for him to develop a route down the field. And I think they're Notre Dame's as a whole is fast enough to cover him down the field. One, I don't think he'll have time to make that though. And two, I just don't see him run after catch being able to be successful in that stat line either. Because even if we give him the ball quick, well, like we said before, Notre Dame is one of the best teams at flying to the football. So I think that kind of negates his ability a little bit. So, weighing out the options, I think they kind of even out. And if they start evening out, to me, I'm taking the team that we've said that has the more want to, the more.
If this
we got?
comment happens, this would be the only one where I'd be like, okay, I got that wrong. That's fine. If Allard goes crazy and he goes to the NFL and gets drafted top 5, because I have been on this man since like before this year. I was like, Drew Allard is the truth. He is good. And so if this
is
comes
very
to
good.
true and he goes crazy, goes to the NFL and gets drafted top 5, first off, kind of screws over Bo Pereira, but we'll be fine with that. So,
Yeah.
but
Screws
I'd
Penn
be
State.
I'd be fine with this.
So I'm just saying, if every like kind of position group on the field is starting to even out a little bit to me, I'm taking the better coached football team, and I'm taking the team with a little bit more to prove at the end of the day.
I'm
Special
taking the better
teams.
quarterback. The better quarterback is Drew Allard.
Special teams, special players.
Well, hey,
Notre Dame's special
I,
teams gets it done.
I don't know. The first two punts Georgia had, absolute brain farts on the Notre Dame special
Yo,
team unit
wait,
guy.
what was up with that
It's
guy?
because they're so
Ridiculous.
good at blocking them. They block a ton
One
of
of them, the
punts.
first one should have been roughing the kicker because he slammed that dude.
Yeah,
Let's
he
be
hit
honest.
him for sure.
The second one was
He hit
like
him for
cut and dry, running into
yeah.
the
That's
He
running
was
into the kicker.
he was just setting the tone, and that's what he's going to do again. He's going to set
He
the
did.
tone.
He set the tone.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm
They
here for
whooped
That
up
it.
on
punter,
him the rest of the game.
it's. I think it also too is because that was the punter's first punt of the year.
Yeah,
True.
Like
he
he's
doesn't
like,
ever want to go out there
he
again.
didn't want to go out there again. I think that had something to do with it because they're like, okay, the first punt of the year, I'm going after this man. If I hit him, I hit him.
Yeah. All right, so we got our picks in there. Anything else on this one before we move on to the last one? All right, let's do it. Ohio State and Texas. Brandon, we're gonna start with you this time.
All right. I mean, this game to me comes down.
Ohio State favored by 5.5, by the way. Over under last time
Right.
I saw was 53.5.
I mean, I've been high on Texas's defense for a long time. I still am. I still think they're a very good, fast unit, and the schemes that they run are well developing, and they execute well. So, I, but we've seen probably the most explosive an offense has looked all season in Ohio State, and you could say the same thing about Ohio State's defense and Texas's offense. So, I think to me, this line is where it's at because of how well Ohio State's looked, but I think it could be a little bit closer than everybody expects, but I'm still it's a tough pick because let's be honest, Texas, they've been in this situation before. Quinn Ewers has a lot of experience. They have a really, really good roster, but Ohio State is just playing at a level that is pretty much unbeatable. But it's all going to depend on how Ohio State comes out. If Texas can somehow slow them down, I think there's going to be a lot of frustration early if Texas can stop them early. And they've been good at that. That's their, like we said earlier today, that's kind of their
Fast
MO.
starts. Yep.
It's
Fast
we're going to
starts.
start fast, then we're going to feel it out for like 3 quarters, and then we're going to win the football game if we need to in the fourth quarter. Which I don't know why they do that. I don't know why Sark does that, but I don't know. This pick, I could pick anything you could pick on Bovada, and I'd feel comfortable after talking myself through an argument with it. Like you could go Ohio State minus 5.5. It's like, well, if they play like they did against Oregon, Tennessee, then they're going to win by 20. If you pick Texas to cover, then I could see that too because their defense is so good and they're physical, and Sark is experienced coach now, and all this and that. With that being said, I'm still going to take Ohio State minus 5 because something's just telling me that Ohio State is still going to ride the crazy momentum wave that they have. And I think now that it's seemingly like we're more so in Chip Kelly's hands from an Ohio State offense, I think there's a lot more dimensions to their offense rather than run the football down the middle. Like somebody texted me I think I texted you guys during the game and was like, wow, it's crazy what happens when you start throwing the football to your 6'3", 225
Yeah.
NFL wide receiver.
Yeah.
Good things happen. So obviously Texas is going to have a game plan so that doesn't happen, right? Because I think that's where Oregon got beat is they didn't see that round one. And Texas now has seen 2 games on film where Ohio State has looked dominant on offense, and they have ample amount of time to look and figure out how to stop that. It's just, is Chip Kelly going to be able to continue to find ways to hit explosives? Because I think that's, if you can stop explosives, then you're good. But like we've seen, I know Texas is, I don't want to say prone to giving up explosives because they haven't really all year, but they haven't faced an offense of this caliber all year either. So we'll see. I'm taking Ohio State minus 5.5 because I for whatever reason, I've been a Big Ten hater. I don't like the Big Ten. I don't like Ohio State, but also really don't like Texas anymore either at all, even though I'm the SEC guy.
They used to be your boys.
I mean, they're good, but it's just, I don't know, man. I just don't see a world where any team can keep up, especially after if Texas were to beat Arizona State by like 30, like I had taken them to, then I could see an argument to where okay, we got maybe two high explosive offensives going and a defense that they're both good, but I don't know. Ohio State just looks like they're on another level. They're playing their best football right now. I don't think Texas is playing their best football right now.
If Texas beat Arizona State like it was going in the first half, then Texas would be favored in this game because they were favored before this weekend.
Yeah.
It was like coming in like, before all games were played. Texas was favored by 1.5 if this matchup happened. Then Texas almost loses to Arizona State, and Ohio State goes and blows out the number 1 seed in the tournament. So, yeah, then we see a major shift. Um, First off, this is the way Texas wins the game. Texas keep the foot on the gas, let Arizona cook. But also, my thing is, I think Texas has to run the ball well to be able to win this game. And we just saw this Ohio State team give up about negative 23 rushing yards against Oregon.
Negative
So
0.8 yards per carry.
that one, it's basically going by it. The biggest matchup, I think, is going to be Ohio State's pass offense versus Texas's pass defense. I don't know how much Texas will be able to do on the offensive side of the football, and I don't think Ohio State will be able to run the ball that well. Will they be able to pass it is the question, because it's elite on elite. Jahdae Barron, one of the best defensive players in the country. Jeremiah Smith, probably the best receiver in the country. It's really going to come down to that. Which unit, Texas defense or Ohio State offense, is plays better? So I am also going to go Ohio State minus 5.5. As you guys have noticed, I've chosen Ohio State and Notre Dame. Before we did this bracket, or before we did this, all the playoff episodes and the brackets, we did our brackets. So I had Texas and Penn State in the national championship, and I've chosen against them. So either way, I get a win. If I go 0-2 in this, I predicted the national championship perfectly. If I don't, I make money.
It's a
So I mean,
win-win.
it's a
Before
win-win.
before Nate goes or Cam goes, I'm thinking back to like Texas's last 4 or 5 games. Let's go back to Texas versus Georgia won. Texas lost. Then they play Texas A&M. I think the under hit in that game. It wasn't very high scoring. And then they played Georgia again and lose again. They played Clemson, didn't dominate that game like they should have. And then they play Arizona State and really could have lost that game. So, like, just on like the past, what, 5, I mean, Texas hasn't shown me that they can keep up with what Ohio State's been doing. When, you can go back and look at the last 3 for Ohio State, and there's a loss to Michigan, and then there's a absolute beatdown at Tennessee, and then there's an absolute beatdown in Oregon. It's just like I said, Ohio State just seems like they're playing out of their mind right now, and I think they can keep it going. I think they're just going to ride this wave all the way out to the Natty.
Buzz saw a theory, as Josh Pate would say.
There we go.
I think this team is not like on par with the 2019 LSU team. It's just a team is playing so good right now that I don't think any team in the country can beat them because they're playing. They're the best
Right.
roster in the country, and they're playing the best in the country.
And they play with some fire, dude. Like Jack Sawyer fires me up when I watch him play football, man. Like that's a guy that you could probably put in any era of football and he'd be the best. You know what I'm saying? Like now, 10 years ago, 1980, dude would just make plays and be the absolute captain that he is on defense every time. So I don't know. It's just Texas just doesn't have that fire that I've seen and I want to see from good teams that are left right now.
We've been getting some dirty looks from Cam and Nate. I'm curious to see what their picks are.
What's
Texas, I mean, I am too, but Texas just to me hasn't proven that they're like Georgia beat Texas twice. Texas is still in this tournament. You know what I mean?
what's
Like,
Texas's team total at?
23.5.
I was gonna guess 22.
I looked at Ohio State's, but it's at 31.5. It was high.
So like, okay, I'll go ahead and go, Nate. You can go last. Because I have my thoughts are I'm thoughting.
Better be quick because mine's going to go away very soon.
It's like, okay, there's like one sure thing in this in my mind. So like, okay, let's say Texas schemes it up the right way and they're able to slow down Ohio State, which no one has done in the last 30 days. Let's just say that Texas is able to do that. That would be like the one thing where it's like maybe they have a way there. I just like that's like the if. My sure thing is where are Texas's matchups on the offensive side of the ball where they have a distinct advantage against Ohio State? We spent all this time talking about Ohio State and their offense, and we should because it's elite. It is probably the best offense in college football when it's going, especially if it's going like this. But no one talks about their defense, which held Oregon to 21 points, which held a run game to negative zero point 0.8 yards per carry, which has been a top flight defense the entire year. They don't give up. They haven't given up points to anyone. I don't see where Texas's advantages are on the offensive side in this football game. I don't think they're going to run the ball. Like, yeah, you got Quinn and he's got Gold and he's got a couple options, but I think they're all coverable with what Ohio State has. Like, I don't, and the pass rushes at an elite rate right now. They're rushing the
Right.
passer at an elite rate.
It's the best in the country.
So all of this, like maybe Texas covers, but it would only be if they find a way to stop Ohio State. That is like the one. Texas is a good defensive football team, so like there's a world where they can find a way to like mitigate some of the damage, but there's not a world where they score more than 23 points with what they have currently offensively. I don't see how it happens. So I'm going to stay away from spread because there's like some uncertainty about Texas's defensive ability. I still think, in my heart of hearts, I think Ohio State covers this game. But in an attempt to be different, I'm going to go Texas under 23.5 points.
What was the score, real quick? The final after 4 quarters before overtime, Texas versus Arizona State. Was it
It's like
24,
31.
24?
I think it was
31,
31.
31?
No, it was 24. No, 31, 31. 31, 31.
31,
I think.
31. So I mean, like, you just think about that. Think about Ohio State in your head, and think about Arizona State in your head, and Texas gave up 31 points to Arizona State, and I know they scored a lot, but that's against Arizona State.
Texas
So
also only ran for 1.8 yards per carry.
right.
They just
So
were able to throw the ball because Arizona State has they have a defense that gives up explosives.
yeah,
Ohio State does not have that.
not at
So
all.
let's assume Texas runs for 1.8 yards a carry is feasible. Like that could actually happen. So if that happens, does Ewers throw for 322 again with 3 touchdowns against that defense against that secondary? I
No.
don't see it happening. I don't see how. So yeah, I'm going to go Texas under 23.5.
I mean, I
Go ahead,
also
Nate.
think Oregon is better than Texas.
I would like to agree. I don't think they showed it this past
No, they
game.
definitely didn't, but
I don't think
I
they
think
showed it,
they
but I
played
still
better
think
football.
I think
I
they
think
have a better
they're more
receiving
talented.
core, and they did
Yeah.
nothing.
All right, ready?
Yep.
All right. So the way I look at it is throughout the whole season, we've talked about Texas defense, right? You go back and look at the games where they face somewhat of a decent offense, they have struggled, except against A&M. That game is what it is, rivalry game, whatever. But their defense has not showed up against the better offenses they've played throughout the season, except that first half against Georgia in the SEC championship. This offense they're about to face in Ohio State is far superior from anybody they faced all year. And kind of like Cam said, we're not giving credit to Ohio State's defense as much as we should. I think for Texas to even compete in this game is they're going to have to play catch up, and I don't think they're going to be able to. So that's why I'm going to take Ohio State at -5.5. I just don't think Texas can get into the running match that this might turn into.
And to be fair, that's the play in my mind. Like my play would be Ohio State to cover this game. Just for the sure thing, though, I don't think Texas
I mean,
scores.
there's a
And
chance
I
it's not even.
think Ohio State scores. Like I think they
Now,
score plenty of points.
There's a chance this game is not even close. I mean, there's a chance.
There's blowout potential here for
Yeah.
sure.
Everything
could
has to go
see-
perfect for Texas for them to
Yeah.
have a shot.
Yeah.
I could see a backdoor over cover similar to the Ohio
I
State
think I'm
Oregon
put some
game.
on the over too.
It's
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
I
so,
could see
both
that.
defenses are so good. Like I could see a like what's the total at?
like
53 and a half.
54. Yeah,
Like
I've
are
53
we
and a half.
saying like a 27 points on a good defense from Ohio State? That's pretty good. And then like 17 from Texas.
I mean, I think Ohio
Still not
State
even a
puts up.
cover.
Yeah.
I think they put up over 30. Like I said, man, like
Even like
Texas.
31-17 still doesn't hit that.
I think they put up more. I'm just saying, like, Texas's defense has not shown up when they need to show up against good offenses.
You know what? I take that back. I take that back. Screw the over because guess what I've said all year about Quinn Ewers? He's a very, very good quarterback if he has time to set his feet, plant, and throw.
He's going to be under siege the
He's
Yeah.
not
whole
going to
game.
have time to have a clean pocket, clean footwork, clean release. He's not going to have that. And when he doesn't have that, he turns into a very, very average,
Turns
if
into
not
Carson Beck.
almost bad quarterback. Yeah. So
What
I could see a
do you see?
backdoor over strictly because like, and it'd only be like an Oregon Ohio State situation. Ohio State's up 34 to
Soften the
7,
zone. Yeah.
soften the zone.
Yeah.
Do you
Then
think
then
Ohio
Ewers
is?
is able to do that.
very easily see Quinn Ewers throwing 2 picks and then throwing Arch Manning in this football game.
Do you
Be a good
think
time for
Ohio
him to get
State
some
can
reps.
score? Do you think they can score 35
At
in
least
this
he
game?
could run away from it. The pressure.
35 is possible. I don't think
Okay,
it happens.
so help me math this out.
Math.
35 plus what hits the over?
18.
18.
It was 53, right?
And that's Cam's under
It's
points.
53 and a half.
So then 19.
And that's under your points, right, Cam?
Yeah.
Okay. So win-win.
It's feasible.
Yeah, I think if
feasible.
Ohio State puts up 35 over hits, simple as that.
I mean,
Possibly.
potentially, but are we saying that what defense is better, Ohio State or A&M? Ohio
Whose
State, pretty
defense?
clearly. Yeah,
Ohio State.
Oh yeah,
Texas
no.
put up 17 against Texas A&M.
And
That's
they
what
played
I'm saying, man.
extremely
Like,
bad that game. We're just talking like what we think is like we don't know what's going to happen in this game, obviously. But I mean, is Ewers going to go out there and
I
be
think
what he
Ewers is
can
better
do?
than what people are giving him credit for. I've been the one saying he could be the MVP, and if he beats Ohio State here, he is the tournament MVP straight up.
It's
No,
just
He would be the only reason they would
they're
win.
going to
'Cause you're
have
not
to
going to
win.
run the
Look,
ball.
They're going to have to
look,
win
I
on
mean, if
big
you
plays.
looked
Their
at
red zone offense sucks.
if you looked at the film all year, it's if he has pressure or not. Unless he can fix that problem where he can throw better passes under pressure or off his back foot or on the run, then yeah, okay, he made that adjustment within the 8-day gap that we've had or whatever it is. So, but if not, which he hasn't been able to do all year or since last season, then I don't see a world where Ohio or Texas's offensive line can hold that pass pressure off of him. So my theory is he's going to be a average, if not below average, quarterback all game.
We will for sure find out how great of an offensive mind Sark is.
Yeah, he's going to have to pull out some
He is.
some craziness.
Yeah.
I mean, with Georgia, going back to film, you see early on that they got like man beaters on one side and zone beaters on the other, and 90% of the time it's like a 3-step drop, get the ball out to a guy throwing an out route. The way Georgia beat them is after 6 plays in a football game, they adjust and go man and take that underneath route away, and then Quinn Ewers, the second play after they adjust, throws a pick. So it's just like I think it's going to be too much for him. I think Quinn Ewers is a good quarterback, but he has to have a really, really freaking good offensive line in front of him too. And I just don't think I think Texas has a good offensive line, but nobody's stopping Ohio State's pass rush right now.
No one's done
Nobody.
it. No one's been doing it.
Nope.
I don't see it happening this time. All right, we good on that?
Yup.
All good.
We are at the home stretch, fellas. Brandon, tell the people what they need to do.
Yep. Make sure you guys are following on whatever platform you're listening on. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. It'd be huge if we can get some subscribers and get this community that we're building to start coming together and having some conversations. I know Will's over there on Twitter sparking some conversations up around the sports world. We're going to get back on the TikTok pretty heavy here in the next couple days, and especially when baseball starts to roll around. So whether it's Twitch, Spotify, YouTube, anything you could be listening on, hit the bell, have your notifications turned on so you don't miss it when we go live. And you also have a reminder for if you do miss the live, you can always go back the next morning or whenever and just give us a listen. And make sure you're commenting. We love the comments in the chat. We want to see. We typically read all the comments if we get some on YouTube in the previous days after the episode, so we can perfect the podcast. We like to know where the public's at, and we are excited for the back end of college football. It's been a pretty wild road, I would say, and thinking about it right now, did any of us have Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, and Notre Dame, the last four teams in college football at the beginning of the year? Probably like Ohio State and
Ohio
maybe
State. I think I had Ohio
maybe
State.
Texas, but like Penn State, Notre Dame, kind of a surprise. So we're glad to have everybody on the ride with us, ups and downs. So we'll keep it going. We got 3 more games of college football left, fellas. 3 more.
Three
Crazy
more.
to say.
Crazy.
All right, that is gonna do it.
What do Diego, Pavia, and Nate have in common?
All
I know
right,
where this is
God.
going.
what do they have in
Okay.
common?
Let's see if I'm right.
I'm trying to guess.
What do you think, Nate?
I know exactly what it's going to be.
I'm thinking they both got a bunch of years of eligibility.
As I said, I played 6 years.
There we go.
Do we get an answer? I want to
It's
know.
probably that. It's probably that.
Should I wait for him or should we wrap this thing
Nah,
up?
well, let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it
All
up.
right, that is gonna do it.
Oh,
Me and
6-year
Will.
varsity athlete. That's there
6
we
year,
go.
but yes. All right, that was worth the wait. That was worth the wait for sure. All right, that's gonna do it. Me and Will are gonna be back on Friday. We're gonna preview the wild card matchups for NFL. It's gonna be a lot of fun. The rest of us are gonna be back again. We're gonna do it next Wednesday, I guess, because we'll recap the semifinals, and then I think the championship is on like the 20th. So we'll just go next Wednesday, kind of like regular schedule.
Yeah.
If you guys don't mind, that'll work for me. Otherwise, appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much, and we will see you guys next time.
Peace.